Having a relationship with Jesus means that you have salvation. And every single one of us is a missionary for Jesus. Having a relationship with Jesus means that you have fellowship and discipleship. That we have fellowship and discipleship. See, religion holds grudges and doesn't offer forgiveness to anybody. And Jesus even said that, when it's all said and done, it's at the final judgment, there's going to be a group of people that's going to come and say, Jesus, we did this for you, we did this for you, we did this for you, we did this for you. And what does Jesus say to them? Get away from me. I never knew you. And it's the people that are so wrapped up into religion that Jesus says, I don't want any part of that. See, Jesus in the great commandments says you have to love God and love others. Loving God is that we are committed to growing in Him, that we have this discipleship. And loving others means that we have this fellowship, that we live out the biblical one another's. Loving God and loving others. As we grow in our relationship with Christ, our heart for each other expands. Having a relationship with Jesus means that we have fellowship and discipleship. And we are a missionary for Jesus. Having a relationship with Jesus also means that you have a mission to accomplish. You have a mission to accomplish. People ask me sometimes, well, what is God's will for me? What is God's will for me? First, God's will for all of us that call on the name Jesus is that we share the gospel. Did you catch God's will for Paul? He's going to carry my message to the Gentiles, to kings, to Israel. It wraps up into the message of the gospel. That is God's will for us. God wants to use you, and He already knows how He's going to use it. It revolves around the spreading of the gospel. That's God's will for every single one of us. See, Saul was very focused on the inside of what was happening with the Jews. The followers of Jesus were focused on sharing the good news of Jesus with others. Religion is an inward focus. And having a relationship means that we are outward focused. We have a mission to accomplish. And every single one of us is a missionary. And you can do just the next steps for us to do, that we can do together, is first pray. The next steps, you can pray. Saul spent a couple days praying. And we can take that and say, you know what, the first step is for us to pray. Pray for opportunities. Pray for your neighbors. Pray for our co-workers. Pray for our friends. Pray for anybody in your sphere of influence. Pray specifically. Pray specifically. Don't say, oh, God, use me to this. No. Say, today, God, put my path in. Give me the words to say. Pray specifically. And pray regularly. Some people say, well, I pray as I'm driving. You know what? That's really not focused praying. Focused praying is stopping what you're doing and focusing and praying intentionally about people in your sphere of influence. Not while you're driving or whether you're doing this or doing that. Spend time, write names down that you're going to pray specifically for. Another step is be a missionary. Saul immediately started preaching the gospel when he came to know Jesus. And he went to the synagogues. And he started building those bridges with the Jews. And we can take that and say, you know what? We can build bridges to people in our lives. We can be intentional. Build those intentional bridges for God to use for the gospel. And lastly is, you can be used. This is an encouragement. You can be used. Focus on the gospel of Jesus. Every single one of us received one of these with our bulletin. Is knowing God personally. The challenge is this. Take this and give it to somebody this week. Somebody in your sphere of influence. Take it and give it to them. It's that simple. You can read it with them. You can just hand it to them. But you know what? We take, every single one of us here, we take this and we just give it to somebody. We trust God for the results. We're just faithful. You know, and this is really low commitment type sharing the gospel. You know, giving somebody something to read is kind of a low commitment of sharing the gospel. And so we can all give one of these to somebody this week. That's the real challenge. Be used. Maybe there's questions. You don't have to know all the answers. Say, that's a really good question. Let me write it down. I'll talk to my pastor. I bet he knows. You don't have to know the answers. But being a vessel of God is, we're just being faithful to the message. We're trusting God for the results. You'll never know who you're going to touch. You never know if you give this to somebody, that person goes, yeah, I already have a relationship with somebody, and they give it to somebody, and then they give it to somebody. You never know where this is going to end up. That's not for us to determine. We're just faithful to the message. I want to read this to you. And this was kind of interesting when I read it. We never know who we're going to touch. A layman by the name of Edward Kimball led Dwight L. Moody to Christ. Dwight went on to be one of the greatest preachers in modern history. It was D.L. Moody that impacted F.B. Meyer. F.B. Meyer touched Wilbur Chapman. Chapman partnered with Billy Sunday, and Billy Sunday had a major impact on a person named Mordecai Ham. Mordecai Ham felt like a failure in his ministry and decided to quit. He felt burdened to do one more revival circuit. A 16-year-old boy with very little interest in the revival was persuaded to go on one of the last days. That boy was Billy Graham. How many of those names have you heard of? I only have heard maybe of 2 or 3 of those guys in that whole thing. The two most familiar, D.L. Moody and Billy Graham. Because everybody's kind of more obscure. You never know who you're going to touch with the gospel. It's like one of those. It's like the question: who is the greatest evangelist? Mordecai Ham or Billy Graham? You never know who you're going to touch. We are just faithful to the message. We trust God for the results. See, Grace Church, we have a huge vision. We have a huge vision to reproduce passionate followers of Jesus throughout the Downriver community and beyond. Part of that vision is to plant new churches and also possibly starting new campuses of Grace Church. We realize that not one church is going to reach everybody. But we bring this good news to others through that. We believe that Grace Church is going to have a significant impact, not only in the Downriver community, but in the Southeast Michigan region and beyond that. That is a huge vision to trust God for. We don't have it all figured out. We're just going to step into that. We're going to allow Him to lead. We're going to be faithful to the message. We're going to